You're listening to a special AI-powered training session generated based on my original research and training documents. While the voices you are about to hear are AI-generated, the insights come directly from my verified material.
Welcome to the Epic Zero Show. Today we are unpacking Module 1.5, Intelligence and Consciousness. So let's start with the most fundamental question you'll face. How do you, as a leader, actually define intelligence? Because the popular definitions you see in the media, they're misleading and they're not useful for a practitioner. Our goal here is to build a rigorous framework, one based on what you can measure and what you can build on. And to get there, we have to start by clearing the board. We have to set aside the single biggest distraction in this entire field, the question of consciousness. We're not going to get lost in what a machine might feel. Our focus has to be on what it can actually do. This brings us to a core tension in the field. It's the hard problem versus, well, getting your job done. We need to understand this philosophical trap, specifically so we know how to avoid it. You'll hear this term, the hard problem. It's about subjective experience, what philosophers call qualia. Is there a someone in there? Is there a light on inside? But here's the critical point for you as a leader. There is no scientific test for it. And if you can't measure something, you simply can't manage it. Look, your mandate is not philosophical. It's operational. Your job is to evaluate what a system can do. Can it perform the task? Is it reliable? Is it safe? Your entire world must revolve around one word: capability. Now, this isn't a new struggle. The very first real attempt to measure machine intelligence came from Alan Turing, and his work teaches us a profound lesson about the limits of observation. Back in 1950, Turing realized the question, can machines think, it was a dead end. It wasn't answerable. So he did something brilliant. He changed the question into a practical test, an experiment he called the imitation game. The setup is simple. You have a human judge, and they're talking to two players they can't see. One's a person, one's a machine. If the judge can't reliably tell which is which, the machine passes. And let's be clear, today's large language models pass this test all the time. So that leads to the real question, doesn't it? Does imitating a human mean the machine understands? The answer is a hard no. The Turing test only measures behavior, and it's completely human-centric. It's a test of mimicry, not comprehension. Now, the most powerful argument against these kinds of behavioral tests comes from a famous thought experiment, John Searle's Chinese room. Okay, picture this. There's a person in a locked room who doesn't speak a word of Chinese. They get Chinese symbols passed through a slot, but they have a giant rule book. It tells them, if you see this symbol, send back that symbol. So to an observer on the outside, it looks like the room is perfectly fluent in Chinese. But the person inside, they understand nothing. They're just pushing symbols around. And that illustrates Searle's core point perfectly. The person in the room has the syntax. They have the rules for the symbols, but they have zero semantics, zero meaning. And that's the fundamental critique of a machine that can only pass the Turing test. This whole idea points to a much deeper issue in AI called the symbol grounding problem. How does the word apple inside a computer actually connect to the crisp red fruit you can hold in your hand? How do any of its symbols get grounded in reality? Frankly, it's still an open question. And there's another major limitation, one that shows up in a really counterintuitive way. It's called Moravec's paradox, and what it says is that the things we think of as hard, abstract reasoning, playing chess, formal logic, that stuff is computationally cheap for an AI. But the things a toddler does effortlessly, seeing the world, walking around, just basic physical common sense, that is incredibly computationally expensive. Okay, so let's bring all this theory down to the ground. Let's talk about the engineering reality you will be facing today. The systems you're managing right now are brittle. They make things up. We call that hallucinating. They don't have a coherent model of how the world works. They break when they see data they weren't trained on. And they have zero physical common sense. These are your real-world constraints. So, knowing all of that, what's your job? What is the actionable mandate for you as a leader in this space? It really comes down to 3 non-negotiable rules. First, and this is the most important one, stop anthropomorphizing. A model doesn't know, it doesn't think, it doesn't want anything. It's a complex pattern-matching machine. Using these human terms isn't just inaccurate, it's operationally dangerous. Second, your entire job is to define And then measure reliable capabilities. This means rigorous testing. It means understanding the exact conditions where the system fails. You have to focus on what it reliably does, not what you wish it could do. And third, you must communicate with absolute precision. To your own team, to your leadership, to your customers. Cut out the marketing hype. Be ruthlessly honest about what the system can and cannot do. That's how you build trust and manage real-world risk. Because here's the bottom line. The strategic reality is this. You are not managing a new form of life. You are managing a powerful, complex, and fragile tool. And your success, your entire career, will depend on understanding that distinction.